Good morning, everybody. It's Coffee and Politics Online with Sydney Walker, and today I am joined by one of my dearest neighbors here. I remember when we met each other.
When was that?
Before state rep special election.
Okay.
Way before then. Yeah.
We've known
Yes.
each other a long time.
A long time. Yeah, you've been a resident in my precinct for quite some time.
I used to see, well, I still do, but I see you running and walking. And,
With the dogs.
yeah, with the dog. Yeah.
Yes. I remember you building your house there, making some changes in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I will admit that my son calls your houses Minecraft houses.
Well, yeah. And,
Go ahead.
And I'm afraid that the intention of those was specifically for the two streets that I was working on, and not for it to go as far into the neighborhood as it did. But
Hey.
copycat and flattery and imitation, and there you go.
There you go. So those of you who may not know, this is Scottie Smith the second.
Yeah.
And a neighbor of mine, precinct resident of mine, and a developer here in Dallas. And you may know him from the Jefferson Myers neighborhood development that took a while to get going.
It took a while to get going, and when it got going,
it took off.
It took off, and then there's a term that I just recently learned called infrastructure desert.
Yes.
And didn't realize what I was going through was indeed that. So when you have a whole area that's indeed just been vacant and had its own set of troubles, you don't realize how much of like true infrastructure doesn't exist. Area.
Yes.
So having to fix that caused some trouble.
So as you can tell, we're going to have a robust discussion about zoning and development in comparison to Houston, which seems, well, it doesn't seem, it has a different structure as far as council and mayor.
Right.
They have a strong mayor system there, which when you look on paper, looks more like what our city manager is tasked with doing.
Exactly.
And then they have the representative individual council members, and then they have at-large seats on top of that. So it's very interesting to see that kind of dichotomy happening in a major city here in Texas. But as I was reading about it, it has allowed a lot of the red tape that you and I have discussed to kind of just be moved out of the way.
Yeah, no, so one of the, and we'll, as the show unfolds, I think we'll dive into the details a bit, but yes, the way their system and their government is set up in Houston is totally different than it is here in Dallas, but more importantly, as it relates to development, the way zoning works in Houston versus here in Dallas. And I think there's an intersection of the two simply because if you need to get something rezoned in Dallas, it's extremely political. And so the politics behind it requires that you go through all of these sets of meetings and you meet with the council person and you talk through this and you go through that and you jump this hoop and do this backflip and show that you support this and that. It becomes a bit of an issue. In Houston, not so much. You own the land, you build something that meets the deed restrictions, and you're good to go.
Really?
And so you don't have...
So there's no taking it to a planning commission or zoning commission to get their sign off on it?
So I've not experienced that. And I'm certain, and just a small caveat, I haven't done large-scale development like I'm doing here in Dallas, in the Houston area, but I have colleagues and friends and professional, just people who I've met in
Cohorts.
the industry, that are, and they haven't had to deal with those things. Now, the problem that you see in Houston that kind of delays or will create a delay is their permitting system is not the best. It kind of
much
reminds
like here in Dallas.
right, much like here in Dallas, but not as Dallas isn't as bad. So
Okay.
I would compare Houston's permitting system to that of what it was when they initially rolled over to the online deal back around COVID time.
Okay.
Where people were waiting 6 months for permits. That's Houston's.
That costs money.
Yeah, that's what they deal with on a daily basis.
Oh, ooh.
And so,
Yee.
you got issues there on
Yeah.
both sides of the coin,
Yes.
but there's no zoning, and you don't necessarily have to do all of these things that you have to do here in Dallas.
I'm out. Roll that tape back. No zoning.
There's no zoning.
What does that mean?
So, right.
Yeah, because developers would love to have that here in Dallas.
I'm sure they would.
Right.
And as you look at Dallas and just the history of zoning, it's rooted obviously in racism, and racial segregation, and just complete class division versus
Yes.
haves and have-nots,
Yes.
and
Yes. You can still see that in the architecture here in South Dallas.
right. You can, and so what I've experienced is in dealing with the city of Houston. You might have on one street, you might have a restaurant next to some townhomes, next to some type of retail strip, all
That's what
within
you mean by
form.
no zoning.
Yeah, all within form, and the neighborhoods kind of cohesively flow together.
But there's a mix
Right. And
of
so
commercial and residential.
right there. And so
Wow.
there's a street like we'll call like Alameda. All right, you got restaurants, stores, storefront, shopfront in Houston, and quite literally, what we've been talking about, what we want to do in South Dallas on
Right.
MLK, you can do that. And behind it, just a street over, you have residential stuff. So people can literally walk from their house, go shopping, go to the
eat.
store, go eat.
Go get a
Across the
massage.
street,
Yeah.
go get a massage. There's
Come
a
back
bar
home. Mhm.
that has live music. That's on one street.
Right.
And what's interesting about it, that's in Third Ward.
Yes.
And so when people, I laugh
And you're
at.
gonna have to correct me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because my point of reference is Scott Street. And
Okay,
that's
yeah.
Fifth Ward, right? Or is that
So
still
Scott Street has some Third Ward. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make that clarification
Yeah.
because I'm taking my map in my head
Yeah.
and following what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we can.
We get our coffee.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so we can do those things, and those things can exist. It's just that here in Dallas, it's become such a political issue, and it's a way to control where people go and don't go, and it's
So, talking about having kind of restaurant row
Mhm.
or business row,
yep.
and then one block over you have residential
Mhm.
where people can come and partake.
And I'm gonna eat mine.
Go
Hope
ahead.
the people don't
Yeah,
mind.
go ahead. We've eaten before on the show. So, way back in the day, and I'm talking about pre my grandparents'
Okay.
time, there was a mix of that retail with housing.
Mhm.
The building that's catty corner from the Park South, that's a historic building. That was a grocery store.
Mhm.
My house had a grocery store and a school in it,
Right.
and a church at one time.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So you had a lot of that. You've seen Talbot, that there are little strips that were built on Metropolitan.
Mhm.
They had the retail.
Right.
So in down Metropolitan, I know I'm talking a lot, Barry Jacobs. There were clubs
Mhm.
that people would go to, and I'm sure Third and Fifth Ward kind of had some of those similar setups back in the day as well. So you have people that the neighborhood could go to their neighborhood bar, their neighborhood restaurant, and it was walking distance.
And that reminds me of an area. So there's a spot that I like to go to when I go back home to Houston called the Flat.
Okay.
And the Flat, I talk about it a lot to my friends just to make certain it's still thriving. But the Flat is
You demolished that taco.
it was great. Yeah,
Really? You should have got two there.
It was great. The Flat is actually a neighborhood bar. It has real cool house music, low lights, all those things. But it's an old house, what I would call a ranch style house. Maybe it's mid-century modern, but it is a house that they converted to a bar.
Okay.
Still in the neighborhood.
Right.
So it's the corner house. All the rest of the houses down the street, people go there all the time. You can have a really good time. Very beautiful yard across the street. You have retail, restaurants, all the things,
That people say they want the amenities.
The amenities.
Right.
So the zoning of it, or the lack thereof, in Houston allows for some creativity.
Okay.
And so here's the problem that I see here.
Okay.
The NIMBY that exists in Dallas is so loud. And it's very interesting because I think people feel like that type of development can exist or coexist here. When there is an example of it that is happening just 3.5 hours south of here. And
we can go closer. Greenville Avenue.
Very good.
And you remember how Greenville Avenue used to be, because it is not that way now. Okay? All You Plus, Goose, Dave's Poor, Pub, whatever, Torelli's, all those spots, the Rose, everything.
Yeah. And I think Torelli's is still there. I just drove by there a couple weeks ago.
I believe that it is. And no one complained about noise.
Right.
For traffic. They knew that was part of moving in. Now on the M streets, they did have a lot of crime with windows getting busted out of the car and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And that was part of sort of what he bought into. But our police department very responsive during that time and kind of put a lid on that. Now you have people moving in that there are noise complaints and code enforcement is being brought out.
Right.
When that used to be a neighborhood amenity.
That's why people moved over there.
That's why you moved over there, because literally you could walk to have your fun time.
That's right. So that's very interesting you bring that up, because I want to say early on when I started paying attention to what was going on in city politics, that was one of the first issues that I remember hearing. And so there was a lot of residents, and I say a lot of residents, but the residents that did come out and speak to it were saying, oh, how loud it was. And I'm thinking to myself, it's always been that way. You know what I mean? It's quite literally that was the draw for Lower Greenville. In Greenville Avenue. If that was the draw, you could go and walk. And I remember I had a client at one point who built a house over there, and he built it because he was like, yo, I want to be right here. Him and his wife are Irish, family who just moved in from Ireland. They're like, I love this. This reminds me of, what I could get back home.
Right.
I was like, yeah, this is cool. And so I used to meet him. He's like, meet me in the house. We'll walk over to wherever. And
have lunch, have a discussion, business meeting, whatever. That
was the allure of the area. And so when I start hearing people talking about, oh, it's so loud, and I felt so bad for one group because there was an issue around parking, and the person that was speaking out against their, I think they were getting an SUP or something renewed, that was speaking out against them, brought up something about their parking requirements and how the building didn't meet the current parking requirements.
But that kind of stuff is grandfathered in, is it not?
It should have been.
Okay.
It should have been, but with all of this stuff, and I'll say this: there's people, there's systems and ordinances that get drafted and changed on the regular with this stuff, and because just human nature and mistakes that happen, there were things that didn't get done properly, and so this gentleman thought he was grandfathered in.
Okay.
But he wasn't, and
Okay.
so he ended up having to go through this whole issue and this
To
whole
try and get an
years
exemption
long.
or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so it was. I felt so bad for the gentleman and his establishment and his business. He'd been there for so long,
Right.
and now you had people who are relatively new to the area coming in speaking out about, oh, this business is a nuisance. My guy was like, I've been here for 2 decades. Like, what are you talking about? You're the nuisance, And so we see
You owe me a coat.
yeah, for real, yeah. Yeah. But it's just, Dallas, you see things like that in Dallas all over the city. And it's problematic. It's problematic to the progress of the neighborhoods that want things like that. And yes, we can say it's because of the form of government, but I think, I'll say this, and I'll go on record and say the folks who designed the way this city is run, it's brilliant. It's quite literally brilliant, because if you want to control something for generations, you draft it and draw it up like you do this. And that's what has happened. It's one of the most, I sit back and stuff like the dang charter, and specifically these charter amendments, I'm just like, yo, this is quite literally insane. And you just got to sit in there and clap it up and say, if you want something, like whatever it was that those people wanted to do with this city at the drafting, that's done it. They did it.
And they
submitted it. And there's, unless we have a full disruption of the system, I mean completely, a complete disruption of the system, it'll always be like that.
So, I want y'all to know, Scottie has been pulled into many ventures with the city as far as committees and boards and commissions, and you participated in the South Dallas Fair Park plan.
I did.
And that plan was put together long before you and I were even anybody's twinkle of someone's eye. Mm-hmm. And part of the problem here in Dallas that I'm sure you are hyper aware of is that we come up with plans galore. And don't none get implemented.
That was one of the things, and I want to shout out Councilman Baldadua specifically because of his openness when I talked to him about this plan early on. Mm-hmm. My request, almost demand, was, look, I'll lead this effort, but this is not going to be one that just sits on a shelf.
No, it can't.
It cannot, and if it was, and I think he was aware of the number or the different plans that existed, but not so much as the magnitude and the number of plans that had been created for South Dallas. I was getting, people were dropping off plans to me that were created in the 90s that were saying the exact same thing, early 90s. And it's like, yo, in physical books, copies, like, I got this, I want you to read it. Before y'all start planning anything, just look through this. Corridor plans, MLK plans, dark station plans, Fair Park and the surrounding streets plans. I mean, everything that you can think of, South Dallas was planned for.
Right.
But
nothing got implemented.
Not much. I'm not going to say nothing, but not much got implemented. For 150 some odd plans that were created for South Dallas, you'd think this area would be a thriving oasis of business and economic development and housing, mixed income housing, mixed use development, all those things, because the plans say just that.
You see my face.
The plans say just that now. And so when we dove into that, it was really about how do we implement this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Because a lot of what you were seeing, I'm assuming, were zoning challenges and restrictions put on place through the inception of the charter, but also some that were put in place by the community itself.
That's right. That's right. So over the years, zoning has changed in this entire city. We're getting ready to do this whole zoning reform very, very, very soon. And it's going to be a complete overhaul of our zoning ordinance here in the city of Dallas. This is an opportunity for us to get it right, specifically around housing and density and, you know, creating these mixed income, these mixed use areas. I think it can coexist together. And so that has changed. It changed quite a bit in South Dallas. There's industrial pockets that happened and racism. Then there's, you know, dumps that happened and places where you can put cement stuff, racism. And you got these types of things that existed in South Dallas. And specifically, this was one of the areas that was a very wet area. So you can have liquor stores galore. So people from all over the city would come here to get their liquor in South Dallas.
Right.
And now it's not.
Yeah.
And so I understood the purpose of creating zoning that restricted that type of stuff, because when you just have it where it's so much of the negative stuff because of the zoning, you gotta do something that changes it, because with those things causes problems, crime, all the things.
Right.
The zoning that was in place for the longest, for 2 decades, was created to hinder that.
Yeah, mitigate
But
some
also,
of that. Yeah.
but also, I'll say this. But also, what I was able to dig into and really see and decide and make a determination on my own was the zoning and the SUPs that you had to get in the rezoning efforts. That was really about, you know, community control. Quite literally, community control. There's a difference between having community input and then community control, to almost to the detriment of the community. If I have to go and speak to every single one of the neighborhood associations to get signed off on, and I'm drawing it all back to the
the
go politics of the city.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You got to go talk to the neighborhood associations, who then go talk to the commissioner, who then goes talk to the councilman or councilwoman about this particular development that the community needs.
Or they go online,
right,
and voice it.
Or they go online and voice it. In today's time, you have me on the show for a whole other thing on that. But
you can always come back.
Right. You have this type of thing, and sometimes that's a bottleneck. It's problematic. It's like
depending on who you are.
That's right. That's right.
Because that's part of the politics.
It's part of the politics of it.
And go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, and so, in so much as you can just dislike a person completely and wholeheartedly, and you want to kill the development that would literally help the community.
Segue to the 25-story building.
Right.
And you and I had different opinions on it. I'm team, let's get some development happening.
I agree.
Anchor will attract.
That's right.
When you brought your proposal for your building across from Madison High School, signed off on it.
Yeah.
Why? Development. Be an anchor.
That's right.
Attract more. And you were being dragged online. And I sent you a text. I'm like, I guess it's your turn now.
Right, you know. and it's I have a consultant and a mentor who's helping me with that project, and naturally I'm really defensive over my projects personally, but really over South Dallas.
Right.
And I wanted to respond to everything, and I responded to somebody, and he immediately sent me a text message and said, as your mentor and consultant on this project, I'm telling you, don't do that.
Right.
Don't respond. Mm-hmm. And it was hard not to, but the reason why we're getting dragged online, if you will, it was from people who didn't live in the community, weren't from the community, weren't active in the community, and quite honestly didn't know what the hell they're talking about. And so when you,
It's all of us who signed off on it.
Right.
I mean, we understood
we,
what it meant to finally have that building activated.
we had 20 of our leaders, neighborhood association presidents, business organization presidents, just people who have been rooted in the community, both old and young and everywhere in between, to sign off on this deal.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically around the fact that, hey, we listened for the past 4 years, and this is what people said that they wanted. And we're not doing anything. I mean, listen, this development is just one small drop in the bucket of what's about to be announced here in the next
Right.
2 years,
Right.
24 months.
That's PD 595 got changed. We got those changes.
Yeah,
made.
and
So,
not just PD 595, Senate Bill 840. That really opened up the floodgates to quite a bit in South
So
Dallas.
explain to people what that is.
So Senate Bill 840 was a law that passed last year that in the simplest of terms, if a property is zoned commercial, there's some, restrictions that you have to follow, or, some things that you have to check off in order to do it. But if it's zoned commercial, by right, you can build a mixed use development with housing. So by right,
Okay.
you don't have to go to rezone, you don't have to go to SUPs, you don't have to do community meetings. And so it was, ironically enough, that passed right as we were going through the rezoning process for our development.
Okay.
So,
And I told you to go higher.
and the zoning now with PD 595 allows us to go higher.
So go higher.
We could have went up eight stories, 100 feet.
And I gave you my rationale.
Yeah, no, and so here's the deal: when you're introducing a new product to the neighborhood, you have to introduce it incrementally.
Yeah.
And so to the point of the Winners Tower, the 25 story,
Right.
they jumped out the gate.
25 stories.
25 stories,
Right.
haven't done no development, haven't done nothing in the community. I mean, let me not say nothing, because they've been working in the community. They've worked with the homeless. They have a church there, bringing the light of God to the community. They've been
They have
working
that strength.
in that capacity.
Yes.
When we talk about 25-story, $250 million project,
That I did not believe that the lot would be able to support that size.
yeah.
Logistically. So I assumed that they were going to try to get the lot behind them, get the motel, get that piece of Colonial, and that little triangle, because I'm like, you're going to have to scoop up all of that.
And that was also the problem. The problem is, I think they put the cart before the horse.
Okay.
Do I think some development should happen there? Absolutely. I think that whole site needs to be redeveloped into something more, something greater. I don't think they should be restricted to 2 or 3 stories either.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should be able to do something amazing there. However, they don't have all the land that they need to get it. They really didn't have the right team. And I think they're kind of backtracking, putting the pieces together. But had they did that first, did the land assemblage, bought all the stuff around it, and then said, hey, this is the plan for
Moving
all
forward
of this that we've
Yeah.
assembled, and this is how it's going to help the community, that'd have been a different story. Probably would have still got some blowback and some
Of course.
backlash,
Of
but
course.
people who are afraid of change
Are going
to speak to, and rightfully so. South Dallas specifically has been, we've gotten our asses handed to us for far too long, and
far back longer than you have been here.
right. And so I can understand the distrust with developers and development that comes into the community. So I get it, but had they done it the other way, they probably and been able to really tell a story of what this is going to be, and maybe even had some pre-leases to, like the grocery store or the bank
Right.
in place, in hand, like,
Right.
it'd have been
Yeah.
a different ball game because
So-
it's not a pipe dream now.
Right, because I had Carl Biggers on, and he works in banking, and he has done commercial banking, and he specifically said that the banks definitely want to know where the community stands with things. So, seeing how Dallas operates, how would that scenario you think would have played out down in Houston, since zone kind of doesn't exist there? And I say kind of, but it does, but not in the way that we.
I'll give you an example of a deal over by the Galleria.
Down in Houston?
Down in Houston.
Okay,
The Houston
'cause it could
Galleria.
be, right.
I forgot we have the Dallas Galleria. But the Houston
You're so
Galleria.
Houston.
The Houston Galleria, I used to go down there, I want to say every other weekend at this time. And there was a plot of land that was for sale.
Okay.
And this was over about an 18-month span. There was a plot of land that was available. I saw it, and I was being nosy. I just called. Oh, what do you want for that? I'm like, oh, okay, well, cool. I hope you get it. Click,
Right.
It was a number that was astronomical. I watched that property get purchased, and then by the end of that 18 months, when I was no longer going down there every other weekend, I'm letting you read between the lines there.
Mm-hmm.
Every other weekend,
Because somebody moved up here.
they had almost 30 stories built,
Okay, I'm gonna have to go by the Galleria.
a condo, and it was paused for a minute too. Like, I'm like, what's going on? Why is it paused? And so that was just 18 months.
Right.
And I think about in that time how long it would have taken just to get an SUP, just to get a replat. I was working on the property, it took me 8 months to get a replat. 8 months to get a replat in the city of Dallas.
So, talk about what replat means.
Either taking a parcel of land and splitting it up, or taking an assemblage of individual parcels and bringing them together.
Okay.
And so you have to go through just kind of the
So basically, for lay folks, we're changing up the address.
we're changing up the address.
Either we're making it multiple addresses or one address.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so in 18 months, I was able to see a property get built and constructed. I'd say it probably was about 70% constructed.
Okay.
There's no way it would have happened.
No, 18 months. Would have even gotten to the planning commission for a vote by then.
It depends.
So let's talk about Dallas for a second here. So I have some land. Let's say I have 3 blocks worth of land, and I want to make it Sydney's Village.
Okay.
Okay. And currently it is platted out for multiple addresses and whatnot. So I do want to replat some of them
Mm-hmm.
and build this residential space that's kind of all inclusive. Let's just say that. So I own the land now outright.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first step that I'm going to take in making Sydney's Village come into fruition?
So depending on the zoning,
Mm-hmm.
you might have to rezone the whole thing to make it do what it is you're looking to do.
Yeah, because I do anticipate having some commercial inside of there.
So?
Not robust commercial like you're thinking of a whole strip with a grocery store and all this kind of stuff. Just some kind of neighborhood friendly type
Yeah.
of retail.
Walkable, kind of small
Right.
community court.
Yes.
Still, gotta get a rezone.
So I'm gonna have to have some of it
Yeah.
replatted to be commercial, and then divvied out with their separate addresses and whatnot, and then having, depending on where you're looking to live in there,
Yeah.
it may be some condo townhomes, single duplex
Yeah.
sort of deal.
So here's the new. There's some new things that have changed, ushered in by the state.
Okay.
Now, hate or love our our government
Yeah.
situation down in Austin right now. They are trying to make it easier to create housing and development happen in cities like Dallas. For instance, now the cities have a set timeline that they have to respond to developers when they're doing a replat. They have that set time. Otherwise, the application is automatically approved. So that's a good thing,
Wow.
right?
Yes.
Because I shouldn't have to do all these. I shouldn't have to jump through hoops to combine or split up land that I purchased. It just doesn't make sense.
Especially if it doesn't sound like you're trying to, do something egregious.
Right.
And I say egregious. Worst case example, bedroom community. I'm trying to put and here I'm going way back to the convention center when the adult industry, entertainment industry wanted to come and have their convention here. I want to set up an adult only video store or adult store
Right.
in a bedroom community. We're not talking about
We're not talking about that.
doing something egregious like that.
We're not talking about things like that. But
We just want to have a coffee shop.
We just
maybe,
wanna have a coffee shop.
A donut store, a pharmacy, a little in and out store
Yeah.
to pick up incidentals.
yeah. So with that, with your example, you likely would also have to do what's called your own little PD.
Okay.
And so an example of a PD is the Jeffries Myers area. So Jeffries Myers area is its own PD within South Dallas. It's PD 363. You have 3 subsections. One is zoned for duplexes and single family. One is zoned for multifamily and condos. And then the other section, section 3, is zoned for commercial.
Okay.
So that is why, where South Fair is doing their commercial, they're able to do that,
Okay.
right? Had they waited a little bit, they would have been able to do some residential on top of that too. Because
Okay.
now by
that little
right,
spot that
right.
you were asking me about.
Now by right, you can do residential. And so when I think about those types of things, I think about, like, say New York, right? New York has these little bodegas on the bottom and some co-op condo situations on top.
Right.
If it works here in Dallas and is able to create some type of density and affordability, I mean, we have a huge need for housing.
Yes, we did.
We have a huge need. And so I want to take a moment to shout out Brian Toney and the Dallas Housing Coalition for their work around the zoning reform and pushing to get more housing-focused zoning and dense-focused zoning for our city. And they're about to do a launch here in a couple weeks about that campaign, but it's what we need here in Dallas. So couple that with couple that with SB 840, and couple it with just people's ability to move quicker with replats and things like that as ushered in by the state. I think the type of stuff that the city of Dallas and the residents of Dallas want to see, we'll be able to see.
Okay.
We'll always have that, unless we completely tear it down and rebuild it up. The system that exists here in, the governing system that exists here in Dallas is going to maybe try to put some handcuffs around some of this stuff, but there's going to be some ways to navigate it a little bit easier.
But that's what Forward Dallas was about, or Forward Dallas 2.0.
2.0, right.
With trying to put parameters around high-rise structures in bedroom communities, kind of where those would go.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because that was part of what the work that you were doing with the South Dallas Fair Park Plan was identifying the corridors that needed to be more business focused
That's right.
versus where we're going to have our housing in those neighborhoods, but also giving some ability for the communities to have things that were niche for them.
For them, right. And so
Yeah.
each community has its own identity. And I think that is one thing that Dallas does really well. We can say identity, We can say, however you want to call it. There's a thorough separation in identity between neighborhoods and areas.
Like it or love it.
Yeah, like it, hate it or love it, it just is what it is. And with that, it requires different things. The people of those communities want to see different things. They want to have different things. They want different amenities. I think what is the same across lines is we want a good quality of life. And that good quality of life means I want to be able to get something to eat that is quality, either that is prepared for me or that I can go purchase and prepare for myself, so groceries, restaurants, etc. I want to be able to get to medical and those types of things relatively quickly. I want to have good schools, and I want to have relatively good public safety or response from officers to provide public safety.
Right.
That's the same across the board. What it looks like might differ, but it is the same across the board. So what I'm really excited about now with PD 595 is that it ushers in our ability to create and do those things without having to jump through the hoops that we used to have to jump through to create those things.
So that has been a lot of conversation that's been had since that happened. It was, now you're going to see a huge boom.
Right.
You're going to see a mega change happening in South Dallas, and everybody better hold on because it's going to be a heck of a ride. But I contrast that, and I say it's not going to go as quickly as people think.
Right.
Because, one, all the focus is on downtown, or the southern portion of downtown. And I just got a text earlier today about a huge development that's going to happen in Cedars.
Okay.
And all of the work that Jack Matthews is doing down there. He's going to be coming on the show to talk about that in the convention center. And I know, and you and I had this discussion where those anchors in moving down, and I grew up here, and I've seen it change from, and even my relatives told me how much more robust the area was. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, you know how old I am, and waiting for the robustness to come back. It still hasn't yet. How do we do it in a way where those that want to stay can stay, and those that want to benefit from the changes going on? Because financially, it's going to be a shift on property values over here.
Right.
How do we still get all of those things, and the people that want to stay? Is that even a consideration when it comes to making these changes with plans and for Dallas 2.0 and rezoning?
Right.
You know, is that something that's considered?
Yeah, so that is something that Tabitha and Ms. Ragsdale and Derek and I talk about often. And here is the fear. We designed this plan collectively as a community with the thoughts that this will be for the community and from the community. And I want to say it was almost immediate, the next day almost. I was thinking about it and I said, oh wow, here's what could happen.
Okay, come on, let's hear this.
Here's what could happen unless there's a mechanism in place that helps to control and redirect where some of the things,
Right.
the financials
Right.
flow and how people help and
Right.
that type of stuff. So it could be great. We can get exactly what we envision in our community. It can be led by the community, and it could. It's designed and set up to do that.
To do that.
But we have to have a sense of community as we do it, right? So I'll say that. But then also,
Go ahead. Yes.
But then also, sometimes we aren't together.
Cohesive.
We're not cohesive. Everybody's in their silos across the area, and staying in just their little pocket and saying, I'm just going to worry about this. Well, that's dangerous, because then you have outsiders that might come in and say, hey,
exploit that.
Oh my, I can do X, Y, and Z here now. Let me buy up everything. And so here's what's going to happen if we don't wake up very soon. People are going to come in, buy up these properties, and I'm not telling anybody not to sell, because why do we buy real estate? We buy real estate to hold on and at some point see an increase in value and either exit, refinance, whatever. So people are going to come in and buy these properties and build things that they can build by right using the current zoning that is not going to be set up for us to enjoy.
Preston Hollow, over by St. Mark's.
Right.
Older community. I need somebody that used to live there. About a 1,200 square foot little house, huge backyard, had dogs, all this kind of stuff. Eventually sold and moved out. Bought the house for $150,000, sold it for almost $500,000.
Right.
I casually drove by to see his older drip. I was like, I don't recognize anything because they basically made zero lot homes.
So neighborhoods go through these cycles, 50-year cycles.
Okay.
And just naturally, over that 50 years, things just change. You have what's called functional obsolescence, when it comes to these homes, which means, hey, once upon a time, people lived in 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom houses, and that's just how we function. It was what it was.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I couldn't imagine not having, an additional bathroom for my children. I love my kids.
I don't want to share.
But I don't want to share a bathroom with them. You know what I mean? They're kids. One can't aim and one doesn't. It just
right. Yeah.
So functionally, it's not. And then
feasible.
It's not feasible, and then it costs more to renovate it than just tear it down and rebuild something else.
Right.
And so when you're rebuilding something else, you're rebuilding something that is functional for right now, and that changes it changes a neighborhood over time.
Okay.
And so we could see some of that, and we put some design parameters in South Dallas with the new PD to help. If it happens, at least you'll be able to see some of the old character
still
stay in place with these homes. But things are going to change. That's without a doubt. It's in every community across America, and the ones that don't change, you see disinvestment. And that's what's happened in South Dallas. That's why we are in a food swamp. That's why we are in an infrastructure desert. That's why we don't have a place to actually go and sit down and have drinks. On Saturday, we should be doing this in sunny South Dallas.
Not having to go to Deep Ellum or
Turtle
Creek or,
wherever.
Uptown, wherever. But I do want to talk about that infrastructure desert, because you brought that up at the very beginning. And my fear, because I got exposed to this with Frisco and Melissa and all of those communities very north of here, is mud taxes. And if you don't know what that is, I did a show on it, but to revisit what that is having the property owner pay an additional tax on top of their property to pay for the sewage, the streets, all of that, the electrical being put underground, all of those things that we just take for granted in older neighborhoods, because we didn't have to pay an additional $30,000, $50,000 on top of the property taxes that you're going to pay when you move in to maintain said infrastructure being put in. And I'm scared with the way Dallas is going with all of the debt that we have accumulated.
There's that.
That the developers are going to start pushing back on having to do the sidewalks, the streets, the sewage, all of those things, and pass that on to property purchasers to then have to swallow that cost.
Right. So I think about that often. because
Okay, so I'm not off the reservation.
No, you're
with
not.
anything.
You're not. So normally you see those mud districts in areas where they're brand spanking new.
Yes.
And they need to figure out a way to get it going. So you'll
Right.
see different things, specifically like in Salina right now. You see what's happening
Yes.
out there. Most of those have some type of mud tax.
Right.
Because it doesn't exist and they need to connect somewhere and it's going to cost a bunch of money. But more importantly, they have to figure out how to finance it. And so that mud district and the taxes associated with that goes to pay back what they borrowed to spend a couple $1 billion to
put
lay
all of that there.
roads, sewer, all that down. Here's the problem with the city of Dallas. We pay for that
Every
already.
month.
You know what
on
I
our
mean?
bills.
We pay for that. You get me? And so when you pay for that,
Don't ask me to pay double.
don't ask me to pay double. You know, and so what I've discovered in South Dallas is that, you know, there will be new roads in streets that were on streets that no longer have homes. And so normally when they go to tear up a road, if it's in a bond, they fix it.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is if there's utilities under there, they have to upgrade those utilities as well.
Yes.
And instead of doing it, they will cap it at the point where the last house is or was. And so we'll say, okay, you have a property on Ash, but everything on Jeffries was vacant.
Right.
They'll cut off the water line and replace the whole streets. And now the water lines on here are not upgraded. They don't exist. They've taken them up. They've thrown it out. And now if I decide to put any more homes there, I got to run
And connect from
150 feet of water and sewer because the city decided that when they replaced those streets, instead of upgrading or replacing the roads, I'm going to just cut it off at that point.
Okay, so follow my logic here. I kind of get it.
It's multi-pronged. Racism.
But here's the thing. You've acquired it. You're a new owner. We don't know what you're gonna do.
Doesn't matter. If it's residential, at least run that 6-inch line or at least upgrade what is there now.
So what if you decide that you're not gonna make it to residential based on what those lines are currently?
That's a big what if.
But that would be your responsibility to make those changes.
If I needed to upzone it, that's
So
different.
just go ahead, keep it as is.
Right. If it's all residential right now, at least replace or repair what's there now. Because here's the problem. It's if I need to upgrade a line, that's different if I'm going to upzone the property. If it's no longer residential, I'm trying to build a multifamily deal, that's you underwrite that into your deal. Whereas, if I'm trying to go back with just another single family home, because it's zoned single family, and now I got to run 150 feet, that doesn't make sense for that deal. Now I can't sell this at $275,000.
You can't sell it at market.
I got to sell it at $500,000. You know what I mean?
And you just price out people
Right.
that, because we have a housing shortage, and I want to say we have an affordability shortage for just your regular folks. I say your regular folks because it seems that housing prices are geared towards families that are making $250,000 or more, individually or as a couple, trouble, whatever. You have to be in that economic class to afford housing now, be it rental or buying. So that's what we're seeing now as far as the prices going up.
I think all over Dallas, yes. Dallas
Okay.
in general, that is what you're seeing. I'll have to pull the actual number, but the stats are pretty astonishing when it comes to like the entry point for a home in Dallas. That is, that's correct.
So it has a lot to. You correct me if I'm wrong, because you also do buying and selling commercially residential homes. So it's not just market says that, that's what the house should be priced at. It's also the unseen things that we as regular lay people don't know.
Yeah.
Don't want to know.
Right.
I don't want to know about how you get water to my
Right.
house, or when I flush the toilet, where it goes.
They
Make it
just
happen.
they just want to know that it's there. And that's the unseen cost that your normal everyday folks, everyday home buyer aren't thinking about. When they're saying, oh, why is this property so expensive? Or, oh, this is unaffordable. At the beginning of the show, we talked about the system that exists here in Dallas. That's part of it. I struggle with understanding why any area of this city is an infrastructure desert. That is very weird to me in what is supposed to be a grade A city.
So it's not just South Dallas or West Dallas before it was redeveloped. It's all over.
I would say all over south of 30. You don't see this type of stuff usually north of 30.
And tell the two cities.
No, for sure. You don't see this. You don't see this north of 30. It's baffling, frustrating, and quite honestly, I got questions, but I have a huge open records request that I sent out a few months ago that I'm still waiting on a response for, asking about where, specifically asked for, the bonds from back in the 90s, the mid 90s, the total bond dollars that were allocated for this area, what was spent, what has been left over, and then the other part that is going to shake some things up is, if it wasn't spent in this area, where was it reallocated to?
Because that was something that Wayne Caraway put us on, that our dollars will get earmarked and then taken to a similar project to another part of the city.
Yeah, because I'm still trying to figure out where they found all that money to buy that old Dallas Morning News deal, and we still struggling with infrastructure and upgrades and roads and sidewalks and lighting. And so that's another show. But I got questions.
Yeah, because I'm bringing my teeth here.
I got questions, but
yeah.
it's to the point where we shouldn't have these types of issues. And they shouldn't exist in one part of the city so much. Like, it's just such a drastic difference. I can see if it was like, oh, it's spread
A
over.
pocket.
Yeah, but it is. My God, like it's so, like, it's right in your face.
It's blatant.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
We got infrastructure issues, infrastructure deserts.
Not just food deserts.
Not just food deserts, but we got
Infrastructure
deserts.
Yeah, that is quite interesting, because I was recently talking to someone about the document that I found. It was an application for the National Landmark Historic District designation for South Dallas, and how it walked through every neighborhood: Colonial Hill, South Dallas Park, South Boulevard, Park Road, yada yada yada, and that's why I said the class distinction is still here. You still see it in the buildings, and how racist it was when deeming what land was suitable for people.
That's right. There was an event here a couple days ago, and Jerry Hawkins was talking about a white developer that ended up suing at a time where, it was written in the deeds, written in the charter, that things will be segregated. And they actually sued so that they could sell these homes to black folks. And the argument was because they aren't suitable for white folks. And that was his argument, one, but those are the types of things that have happened and that exist. here.
Yeah.
Likely all over, but just peeling back the onion a little bit more and talking about how we got here. When I tell you,
And it's still here.
when I say it is magnificent how well it was set up and written for it to be like it is. It deserves an applause. It's like, yo, my goodness, y'all wanted something so bad for so long, for so many generations, that you write it out in such a way. If we got together and did the same thing as a community to benefit the community, I just get goosebumps thinking about what actually could be for us. It is something that I think about often. I feel like, when the community is together on one accord, we can quite literally do anything.
And we don't have to be a monolith.
We don't have to be a monolith.
We don't have to agree on every little detail.
And quite honestly, we don't even all have to like each other.
Right.
But we have to know that and believe that all of us that are here will benefit from it. And that's the part where I get encouraged, because yes, we all have differences in opinions. Yes, we all have differences in ideas, but I feel like what we share is a heart for our community.
Yeah, the goal is the same.
The goal is the same.
But how you get there will differ. Yeah. You and I have had plenty of conversations, and I told you, growing up here, South Dallas was a very different look than it is today. And when I finished high school, I started seeing the transition occurring, and people were abandoning houses, and families didn't want to move back or whatever. And too many heirs will cause a lot of problems. So you ended up seeing houses catching on fire in bulldozers, and they say, no, they're on the county auction. Some is cheaper, and people were going for as little as $250.
That's crazy.
Crazy, right? And then you had community, getting in an uproar about what was being built. It's not for us. It's not this. It's not that. And back then, I was screaming, begging, pleading with people to move back into the community, because I was like, and HGTV wasn't even a thing yet back then. Mm-hmm. It was starting to, and I was like, we can make this what we want it to be.
I still believe that. That was one of the things. I remember when we built our first property in South Dallas, and somebody asked me, who are you building these for? And it was in a public forum, and they asked that question, and I said, I'm building them for whoever wants to move to South Dallas. Whoever, sees South Dallas as a place that they can call home, or that they call home, but didn't think home wanted them. That's what I was building it for. And I tried to keep it as politically correct as I could.
And
in that forum. But the goal was, in hearing some of the things that I heard from the community, was that, we want people to move back. There's a pocket of people who, grew up and left, went off to college, went off to travel, military, whatever. When they came back to Dallas, they didn't come back home. And so they took their talents elsewhere. Majora Carter, out of New York, who is one of my sheroes, if you will, talks about that. And she talks about how people from the community that are often like South Dallas, they grow up and they go to college, and they
go explore the world.
Right, explore the world, get their professions, their high-paying jobs, and then they decide that they don't want to come back. And because the whole allure is, I want to get out of the hood, as soon as I can. Or I want to get out of the neighborhood as quickly as I can. When I go and make all this money, I'm not thinking that your talent and your time and your treasure could quite literally change the community back to what
you claim you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why I set my roots in South Dallas. It reminds me so much of South Park in Houston, where I grew up. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to go back home because, comfort.
Whatever,
you
for
know,
whatever reason.
But if I could help guide that idea here in South Dallas, I think I've done, my life's work. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. And to see happen specifically with this zoning change.
Right.
It's like, we're going to see stuff that comes and people are going to be like, oh, snap.
Right.
We got that now?
Right.
Like, a Shipley's is coming. Like,
right.
For me, I'm excited because that was the first thing I said is, why we ain't got no Shipley's in South Dallas? Like, of all the things.
Yeah, you got to go to Pleasant Grove.
Right. And so, but that's just a start.
Right.
We could have coffee shops. We can have, sit down restaurants where we can do brunch. We can have speakeasies and bars and rooftop lounges. We can have that. Will it draw the community back? I sure hope so.
Hope so. Because we know some other people are going to get drawn to it.
Oh, and they love it.
Yeah.
They love the idea of coming in at the beginning of something.
Yes, yes. And you and I, we kind of differed on this. Because for me, growing up, I saw the changes that Fair Park did to neighborhoods that surrounded it and the acquisition of those lands. And for me, it should be a Kickstarter that we can build off of and take someone else's community dollars that come over here and benefit us. Like, we take our dollars out of here to go grocery shop, to go do our entertainment, to go do our retail shopping. Mm-hmm. That we should be able to capitalize off of that.
We definitely should.
And I think it's way past time. Like, that should have been something that was immediately started being ushered in during the 90s, but it wasn't. And quite frankly, it takes me back to when Scott Griggs was on the show and talked about how, it's like a huge question mark on why, after all of this time, that investment still hasn't been done when it comes to activating that part and activating the area to have an economic growth as a result of it, and why that de-investment is there. It's like, do you want to keep it poor? Or is this the next lot of city-owned property that we're talking about having another campaign for Save Fair Park, Save Dallas Fair Park, and not selling it off? It's like, there's so much there to go back to your point with, so much racism in the city. I know. Look, if we could keep going at this for another whole hour.
I was about to jump on the Fair Park deal, but,
And here's the thing. So I have been trying to do more roundtables. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be ending the show right here, right now with this. So I'm finally get one with all women. Because traditionally, my roundtables have been all men. Definitely need to have a roundtable around Fair Park and that discussion around the economics or the lack of economics that we have not seen outside of State Fair of Texas. And you get making money off of cars being parked at the property. And they're also, State Fair of Texas is also coming.
Good. Because I got some ideas around that. We got to redevelop the Fair Park fully.
So make sure that you actually come to the show for that one. Because that's going to be in September before they open up. And I already let them know that I was a very harsh critic of the State Fair of Texas. So we're going to have a robust discussion about where they are today and what they're doing for the community. But definitely think about who else we can have on to talk, have that round table discussion, because we need to have an unfiltered conversation around that and what that looks like. Because you, a lot of my guests, we have so many conversations behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This
is good. We're gonna do like a part 2, but I would love to be on that round table and
Yes.
at least be in the room and listen, because I feel like a lot of times I do a lot of talking in those spaces, but I want to just be able to listen and observe for a little bit, because
that's fine. Give me some recommendations on folks, because I'm always looking for new guests, new topics. I'm a one-woman show. I can't do it all, so I do depend on my viewers and followers and guests to make recommendations, come back, and all that great stuff. Because there's so much to be had with the area, and for one, I don't want any pockets like Robert B. Combs, 2nd Avenue, MLK, Joseph A. Higgins, to have anything like Trinity Groves in that turnover.
oh yeah, my goodness.
But also the underpinnings that has led to all of that turnover with the lease agreements and all that kind of stuff, because it becomes a woo, let's go over here, and it's the hot girl right now, and she, quite frankly, becomes the unhot girl real fast.
That's right.
As fast as she became the hot girl, she became not hot girl. So I want to make sure that we're thinking about those things as we're saying what we want to create and have over here, and what that looks like. And this is what I would say about the city of Dallas and the processes that we have and the governance that we have. We don't think far ahead enough. And maybe that's just my IT background coming out, that I'm just like, I need to think way down here, because budget-wise, time-wise, governance-wise, what are we doing here?
What are we doing? That's right.
And are we restricting something with a council vote that's opening us up for a lawsuit? Because I want us to stop wasting money on that.
We got to spend. That's the crazy part.
It's not we having to stand for the legal teams to represent us, and then we having to stand for the money that we're paying out.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So think about that, because that is definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And I would say even Maxie's district is kind of in that same place, the South Dallas. And how do we navigate that with so much change can come through, and what that would look like with us driving that navigation.
Yeah. I know we're supposed to be ending the show, but there's one thing that I want to really kind of just leave here. There's so much fighting amongst the council. And this is kind of bringing it back to where we started.
The governance.
The governance one. There's so much infighting within our council right now. And I want to just remind everybody that if it's good for one area of the city, it's good for the city. So the things like infrastructure, things like rezoning, things like redevelopment, that's good for the entire city as a whole, because guess what? Now I have the infrastructure necessary to build and develop what could increase the tax base and pour back into the coffer of the city of Dallas. We're losing out on billions because of that. And I just want to encourage the council, and I want to encourage the folks who are listening, that we got to get on one accord, because if not, there's going to be areas like South Dallas and Oak Cliff, South Oak Cliff, and like I said, Maxie's district, that continue to miss out, lose out, and we're now unable to really contribute what we should be contributing to the tax base, because we don't have the necessary infrastructure in place to make that.
Yep. So, and then with that, I'm gonna have Tabitha on the show
Oh, she's going to bring the house down.
to talk about master plans. And I'm so looking forward to that discussion and finally having her on, because I wanted her to come on about the parking fees. But her wheelhouse is really master plans and having that discussion, because that's something you brought up. 150 plans for South Dallas. Come on now. And we didn't get much implemented here. So what that looks like and what that process is about, and having that because the city needs a master plan, period. And how do we get that? But that begins with leadership.
That's right.
And having the right leadership that understands that, because way back in the day, they understood that. They put some things in place. Unfortunately, have some negative impact, but we need that master plan. All right, so thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely will look for those recommendations. Still want you on to be part of that conversation. So maybe instead of just 3 people, I just have this whole area filled.
Yeah.
And we just go from there, and it will be a raw conversation. So some people may be over talking, and we may be cutting each other off and all that great stuff. So it's Saturday. Enjoy your loved ones. Stay cool out there, because the weather is just brutal. It's just hell on wheels. So I just want to make sure that people are engaged, understand your local government, understand why things are happening the way that they are. That's why I've been doing this since 2016, so you understand your local government and what it means to you and how it impacts you. So get out there, get engaged, spend time with your loved ones that make it all matter, and enjoy yourself out here. See you next Saturday.